Cela fait des semaines que je me couche en me disant que le lendemain, j'aurai peut-être mon visage, mon nom et ceux de mes proches, mon adresse quelque part sur Internet, ou peut-être même dans des mails d'autres youtubeurs. À chaque fois que j'ai envie de relayer une information sur l'affaire de Lillee Jean, j'ai une petite voix dans ma tête qui me dit « Et si elle voit ce que t'as partagé et décide de te pourrir la vie ?» C'est épuisant, moralement et physiquement.
It took me 8 months to find my biggest fan. A fan so invested in my content that she dug up my personal information and posted on the internet. Today, there's no need to philosophize or with advice. We're simply going to talk about one of this platform's biggest frauds, Lillee Jean.
And say bonjour!
Bonjour!
So, hello, fellow English-speaking people. My name is Cléor, and now let me tell you my personal story with the lovely American influencer, Lillee Jean. I'm making this video in English to break the language barrier and try to tell you everything these two people have done. So I'm a bit sorry for my accent. If you don't get everything I say, I'll also put the subtitles in English with the YouTube feature. But first I want to thank Chapitrage, the sexiest guy ever, from the bottom of my heart for his help on this video. Since my content is in French, you probably don't know me, so let me explain this whole mess. Basically, I'm a girl from Belgium, a small country in Europe that's known for its chocolate, beers, fries, the little boy peeing, and our giant balls. We do speak French, bonjour, Dutch, Counterattack, and German, ich bin keine Nazi. I started my channel a few months ago, making commentary videos mostly about American dramas. On April 26th, I released a video about Lillee Jean, an actress.
This is what a fucking degenerate animal from Jersey does!
Actress accused of fabricating her career from scratch, including buying subscribers and photoshopping herself onto events and magazine covers. A few hours after the release of this video, it was struck down for copyright by Lillee Jean. She accused me of using her Bullshitish documentary throughout my video, which was not the case. But that's not all. My Twitter account is also the subject of a copyright claim on my thumbnail and a portion of my video. Following this, I contacted the most handsome guy ever, the YouTuber Chapitrage, who had produced several videos about Lillee Jean. He spoke publicly about my situation and I contested the strike. The next day, Lillee Jean, Lillee's mother, decided to dox Curtis' entire family on her Facebook page, accusing him of being a neo-Nazi who plays with children. For my part, I received an email from Lillee on my YouTube email address and my private email address containing some rather comical accusations. To name a few, I'll be Nazi, greedy for cash, stalker, anti-Semite, and responsible for riots in New York as part of the Israeli-Palestinian conflict.
Pour situer le contexte, la ville de New York a été le théâtre de plusieurs émeutes violentes contre la Palestine, dont certaines à proximité de mon domicile juste après la diffusion de sa vidéo.
So many flaws in one single person. I disgust myself. I also received the personal information of several YouTubers, including Primink, Chapitrage, Sunny Video, and Anna Hoop. She also pulled my third name out of her beautiful asshole, which is not displayed on any of my legal document. The email is accompanied by an FBI IC3 document containing my personal information and IP address. I also received the complaint she sent against Curtis. For what reason? I don't know, but in a way it makes me happy, because it only brought us closer. After that, she filled out more online complaints against me to ensure my video would not be reinstated. A few weeks later, my video finally came back thanks to the hard work of Primink and Steven, a journalist whose article was also struck down for copyright by Lillee Jean, and everything went back to normal. At least that's what I thought. On June 14th, I released my second video retracing the history of the FBI document, and I have to admit that I wasn't very reassured when I took it out. However, nothing happened, and we more or less put that behind us. I kept posting new videos on my channel, and it started working pretty well. So I completely forgot about the Lillee Jean case. I noticed that she's still able to post on her channel and that nothing had changed, but I know there's no point in saying anything. And if you follow my channel, that's where we left off, and I honestly thought it would end there. Curtis and I have resumed our classic videos on our channels. By the way, I take this opportunity to make him say stupid things in my videos.
Je suis encore en train d'échir sous le sol.
all is well in the best of worlds. On August 10th, Primink released an update video on his secondary channel. First, he recounts how Lillee Jean and her mother edited his Wikipedia page to include his personal information.
My page had been edited to include my full docs. It had my legal name, my business name, and where I live. And the information about me was the same exact information that Lillee Jean had emailed me. What a weird coincidence.
In his latest video on Lillee, he suggested that victims send him emails. Well, we now know that there are at least 37 of us who are victims of them.
I learned that at least 37 creators have had some kind of negative interaction with Lillee and her mom. And I'm just like, how much time do you have? Why are you wasting your life doing all this when you could, I don't know, pick up a hobby, read a book, get better at acting maybe? Again, it's this endless cycle of them constantly hurting themselves because for some reason they can't stop engaging.
37 over 4 years. That's about 9 people a year to piss off because you can't take criticism. 37 is almost as many victims as the skills listed on Lillee's CV. Lillee and her mother got so pissed off by his video that they managed to strike people on Primink's Discord for copyright infringement. Yeah, apparently that's possible. It's gotten to the point where a moderator of the YouTube drama subreddit has asked people to stop talking about Lillee Jean.
It looks like we may have to restrict posts regarding a certain creator with the initials LG, as admins keep removing posts due to copyright takedowns likely issued by the subject of those posts. While we have not received any notice from Reddit's admins, I know that this could end up being a detriment to the subreddit if this continues to happen. So unfortunately, we cannot allow any posts that contain her name or any identifying information to protect the subreddit. Thanks guys.
Primink tried to get in touch with YouTube, and only after the intervention of other YouTubers, he was finally able to talk with them.
Next, I was told by the rep that there were actions taken against Lillee Jean's channel, but I wasn't allowed to know what the actions were. Essentially what they said is abuse of the copyright system can lead to channel deletion or legal issues, and then they referenced YouTube versus Brady, which was a court case where YouTube sued one of their creators because this creator was filing false copyright claims against their competition, like Roblox channels or something. So they referenced that, and then they said that they can't give me any more details than that because at this point this is a legal matter.
Although Primink's update was posted on his secondary channel, Lillee noticed it pretty quickly, and a few hours later, she posted an excerpt cut with the ass of an old video.
I kind of am the type of person I soldier through things, so I edited it and I did what I had to do to protect myself, and I feel like I'm protecting my family.
But what interests us here is not what she says in this extract, but the fact that, for the first time, Lillee was responding to her comments against her.
You're a lunatic.
You're fake.
You and your mother are totally insane. Blame yourself and your mother instead of everyone else.
Another man telling a woman she isn't valid. Go figure. I have police documentation on this and have been stalked, threatened, and stand by my claims and thoughts.
In short, every time she replies that she's the victim because she has filed complaints with the police and the FBI, but just because you file a complaint with the police doesn't mean you're a victim. But it wasn't just under her video that she responded, but also in her community tab where she posted this lengthy statement.
Since 2020, my life has been turned upside down by people who have profited of my name and my image through videos and streamings, using a fake story they made up to run a narrative that does not exist. A week before my birthday in April 2024, I started to have weird attacks being made online towards me, as well as messages being sent that were more than the volume I receive. In May 2024, my life was completely twisted into another mess when a new video came out by one of the main people in this group, a man who goes by the name Primink, who now ran a new narrative that he was a victim.
Just as a reminder, like a few weeks earlier, you were doxing his identity in my emails.
Nobody wants to hear the truth of what really has gone on and is going on. Nobody cares that I have been defamed, attacked, feel extremely threatened when I go out of my house. The facts are this: Primink was not doxed. He is a publicly run company, making him and his company a public company.
And just because you've decided to make your name public doesn't give you the right to make other people's names public.
He doxed himself by putting a private email email that was sent to him on YouTube. Nobody else was aware of this email. Into a video he created to get new buzz for his Lillee Jean story. That always makes him money.
But of course, there's no proof of this, because it doesn't exist. They retrieved Primink's personal information via YouTube and via the illegal data retrieval they drew from their website.
I don't want to worry about my safety. I don't want to worry about someone creating another ridiculous video that makes absolutely no sense. No videos are on this person, and had I wanted to, I could have at any time released who Primink is, where he lives, and what he looks like, which I did not do, out of respect for the legal system.
I sincerely believe that the legal system can go fuck itself after you edited Primink's Wikitubia page with his personal information. That evening I was there, reading her pamphlet of victimization, which is just as pathetic as her acting.
I am so sick and tired of being told that love is all a woman is fit for. I am so sick and tired of it.
And I did something that could only be described as stupid. I replied to this post because it pissed me off to see her pretending to be a victim when she won't leave us alone.
You F-word, dox Curtis family. How can you be the victim?
Because let me remind you that while she claims to have done nothing illegal, their little duo still posted the names of Curtis family members as well as where they work. And Lillee replied,
I have an IC3 FBI report on you, and I refuse to succumb to your mental games. You're a psycho, a troublemaker, and a liar. You organized this starting in April. I have your IP getting blocked, trying to stalk me for months. I also filed a report on you from Belgium Consulate. Price, I have filed a report in Wales on is a public company, along with his family owning a huge store.
In that case, if I follow your logic, why did you also dox his girlfriend, who isn't a public company? Was it just for fun?
As well as a lovely girlfriend. I mean, yeah, they list all my family's Facebooks and lists my girlfriend's Instagram, and then proceeds to say his girlfriend, who one day might say I do to him. Come on, everybody, get yourself to the shops. You're coming to my wedding, baby. F***ing idiots.
Leave me alone, might I add? You're a public company and a public shelter.
Then there was a link to my auto profile with my first and last name.
You doxed yourself in an email that was private. You published it for fame and glory. You're insane.
Ah ouais, t'es dark.
I will continue to pursue action against you.
My private email never appeared in any of my videos, although my second video was relieved after she wrote to me about it. And if you refer to the YouTube email, here's the private information YouTube gave her. So beneath this blur are my first and last name, my home address, my phone number, and the email address as Cleor, not my personal email address. By the way, yes, if you get struck unfairly and you contest, all your private information is sent to the other side. Do I need to elaborate on how dangerous this is, or do you all agree?
Lastly, in the email sent to you, demanding you leave me alone, I had the detective in CC once again. So while you play a victim, I do all the evidence and will be seeking to publish each fact to your fables.
I'll overlook the fact that she probably liked her own comment, but the moment I saw that, I was stunned. For my favorite League of Legends players, I took a Q plus R combo from Amumu under exhaust in front of the two Nexus turrets. Luckily, I was chatting with my friend who edits my vertical content of my channel, who told me to delete my message so that the comments would disappear. So it stayed there for 5 minutes at most. That's why I posted this tweet to ask for legal help, and then this one to quickly explain what was going on, because up until now, my doxing had only been private in emails to YouTube, not in public. And I must confess, I hated myself a little at the time, because being anonymous protects me, but it also gave her a weapon to put pressure on me, and I don't know, maybe she thought that by putting pressure on me, she was doing the same to Curtis, but that was only the beginning of this wonderful night, because it continued on Twitter. Just to clarify, these tweets were posted before I wrote about them, so I wasn't aware of them.
Love to read.
With a link to my book with my name on it. We'll get past the fact that the book is in French, and I'm not even sure that she was able to read the fourth cover, given the intelligence shown so far. But she started posting other tweets, linked to websites and articles about homes and families of other victims. And once again, Curtis' family. And between the two, she retweeted her horoscope. But just because you're playing the stupid bitch doesn't mean you can stop for 2 minutes to listen to the planets. She had fun. doing that for part of the night, but also answering on lolco thinking she was anonymous. By the way, thank to the people who defend me on those platforms. I never write on them in any case, but it's nice of you. In fact, the next day, after finally deleting the comments against her on her profile and under her video, she posted again, this time attacking Curtis and pointing out his location.
The crowd that is attracted to Curtis Price content are violent and have, on all 11 videos, sent me some of the most frightening messages I have ever received, making me feel extremely unsafe and uncomfortable.
We're not even going to bother showing proofs of these allegations, yet we're able to keep plenty of private information about others. How convenient.
These are highly influenced people, and seeing Curtis Price cover photos of me for his video, where I have bruises on my face, encourages them to want to be violent towards me, since they feel if their favorite YouTuber wants to hurt me, they should too.
This is called color correction, and given the look of your films, I know it sounds crazy, but there are people who correct images to give them personality.
People like Curtis Price refuse to allow me to live my life peacefully.
Hey sister, Curtis hadn't released a video about you in 2 months. Why are you doxing his town? If you want to date him, there are other ways to approach him, you know. Why are you attacking him when he hadn't done anything yet? And he also one of the last to know about all the doxing that happened in the last few hours.
By the way, at this point, I wasn't even aware that you'd started back up again. That's how distant I've been from this. I wasn't aware that you've come back and started doing these things. If you hadn't, I wouldn't have spoken about you.
So he doesn't make another video, I guess. What's more, I discovered that on her website, she posted the various complaints she made to the FBI and the police against us while censoring the information as delicately as ever. After that, I don't really see the point if it's to name your file with my real name so it appears. At the time, I was hesitating about what to do. Some people around me were telling me to do nothing and let her make a fool of herself, and some others were telling me to make a video about it to make money off her, since that's what pisses her off the most. Meanwhile, I was talking with Tits Rosta, another YouTuber Lillee Jean had already tried to strike, and Curtis, to whom I sent all the captures of Lillee replying to people, seeing that a few hours later, she had deleted everything. I'm sorry girl, but the time difference between Belgium and the USA isn't really going to stop me from collecting all your crap. The two guys released their videos on August 16.
This is the enemy. Her name is Lillee Jean. She's an influencer, but she's not.
She doxed my family, where they work and stuff like that. They just posted a link of where they work. They posted a link to this website and put recommend 5 stars. Oh, that's nice of her, man. Thank you for promoting that company to your 27 robots.
I have your IP address getting blocked for trying to stalk me for months. Lillee, you realize viewing a public website isn't stalking. That's not how stalking works. Or are you gonna say leave me alone after you just casually doxed 2 people?
Oh, dox me, Lillee Jean, mother, because I'm always so afraid when you do it. I don't give a crap, alright? But what I do care about is you dragging Cleo into this and doxing her real name. What did she ever do to you exactly? Other than releasing 1 video, what did she do to you? She did nothing. What did I do to you? I released 11 videos. 11 brilliant videos. But did I ever dox you? Did I ever stalk you and your family? Did I ever file false police reports against you? No, I didn't f***ing think so.
This person was like, great moment, and then you click on it. What's the great moment? Did I miss it?
You are a psycho, a troublemaker, and a liar. Really, Cleo's a scumbag who plays mental games, is a psycho, a liar, and a troublemaker. Well, that's rich. You are a psycho for stalking my family and doxing them when I did nothing of the sort to you. You are a troublemaker because you falsely tried to strike my videos down and successfully striked many creators' videos down. You are a liar because you came on Facebook and claimed that I was a part of a neo-Nazi organization who plays with kids on Twitch. You are a scumbag who plays mental games by coming on the internet and plastering yourself as a victim as if you've done nothing to any of us.
By the way, Curtis, who is one of the very few who knows my identity, face, and all, almost doxing me in his own video remains my favorite moment.
Lillee Jean files more police reports against stalkers. Oh look, and there's Cleo's name, lovely. Sorry, in what sense did almost doxed her myself then? Stop coming after creators, because if you stop coming after us, we will stop coming after you, and I am proof of that because I haven't mentioned your name in 2 months, and here you are again talking about me.
So I was ready when these 2 videos were released. I was prepared for them to happen again, and I knew for sure that giving the bullet to the boys, that Timmy version of Homelander would suckle his darling Lord's breath before wanting to shoot us. And I don't know what caused me to wake up at 2 a.m. the next morning, whether it was anxiety or something else, but the first thing I did was go on the internet and come across this.
Who else is ready for Halloween? Smiling face. Such a cute one.
This is a drawing I did almost 2 years ago. Link it to my Tumblr account with my book, once again.
Support artists when you can. It's a tough business.
To give you a bit of background, it's been about 3 years since I started drawing on the tablet, and I'm the one who made my profile picture, my thumbnails, and the sprite for my secondary channel. And yet I never linked my drawing account to my YouTube channel. As soon as my channel was shared by a big French YouTuber in January, I made all my account private for security reasons. It is something I've suspected for a few months, but Laura and Lillee have been stalking me for several days before the release of my first video. That's why they insist so much on the fact that it all started before Lillee's birthday, because they took all my private information from their website. For obvious reasons, I'm not going to give away too much information about my sources, but I know for sure that Laura was annoyed that a French woman was spending too much time on her site for her liking, probably because I was recording video captures from their site. That's probably why they were so quick to strike me. They already knew who I was at the time. I had no access to Lillee's Instagram, which is why in the first video I said that her account no longer exists. In fact, they had already blocked me.
Elle s'est refait un compte Instagram pour mettre en avant ses productions et ce compte a plus de 100 000 abonnés, ce qui de nouveau est suspect, mais il y a d'autres détails qui me dérangent. En estimant que ce compte lui appartient, elle continue de mentionner son compte supprimé. Les commentaires sont étranges, dans le sens où plusieurs comptes commentent plusieurs fois, parfois la même chose, parfois légèrement différemment, et ce sont des dizaines de comptes qui font ça sous tous ses posts.
Then I realized that it was also the case on Twitter, even though, as I said, I never link my accounts. So it's a safe bet that I've been stalked since mid-April without knowing it. I'm pretty sure Laura is the one who writes 90% of what appears on Lillee's account. I'm not even sure that Lillee has the IQ to do anything with her life, since her mother took her out of school at 15 to become an actress, and you, like me, saw the result.
In life, people choose the path they want to lead. There is good in people all around. You might not see it yet, but I know you. I know you have the power for good, for change.
I scrolled down a bit and noticed that she's back to sharing information about Curtis' family in the same way. Then finally, there is the post that prompted me to make this video. This is my mother's blog. This screenshot hurts me physically and emotionally. If I share it, it's really to stop it getting to me. My mother isn't related to my channel by anything. I don't even want to know how she got access to it. My mother doesn't sell anything. She's not a public figure. She doesn't own a business. She works as hard as she can to support herself. And in the little time she has, she helps me with my channel. You care so little about your own miserable lives that you're forced to share other people's private details? Well, you're right. These are my mother's creations. She also made this lovely Cléor doll. By the way, maman, don't you have a little message for them?
Bonjour, je suis la maman de Cléor. Lillee Jean, tu peux dire tout ce que tu veux, de toute façon, je m'en bats les couilles.
Je m'en bats les couilles.
Of course, the only reason I bring it up is because my family agrees with it. And if their information is going to be leaked because of them, we might as well have a nice meal at their expense. Speaking of private, let's talk private. That's got to be, what, 3-4 times you've shared my book? Oh gosh, I imagine that thanks to your crazy influence. My sales must have skyrocketed. Oh, don't you both have, like, shopping options yet? So yes, I admit it. I made the incredible mistake of writing a story and publishing it. But the funniest thing about it is that Lillee is having fun sharing a trailer about a secret group taking revenge on bullies and stalkers in a school. My story deals with harassment, feelings of injustice, and the desire for revenge. And it is so long that you could call it a bladed weapon. Either Lillee Jean doesn't understand French, and though it would piss me off if she shared a story I spent months writing, which was passed down phone to a professional publisher and published at the same time as my YouTube channel. As a result, I couldn't foresee that the channel would work, and I didn't even advertise this book. 90% of my family and friends don't even know I published a book. Or maybe she has read it, became a huge fan of my writing, and wants me to do a second volume about her. In any case, my dream now is for it to be adapted to a film and for you to go on the casting and prove your acting skills.
I don't walk through life, David. I skate through life in really nice shoes.
Come on, baby, don't cry. Maybe you can play a tree in the theatrical version. From the start, all Lillee Jean and her mother have had against me is that I write stories and draw, 2 areas in which they are claquer au sol, as we say in French. At the same time, if Lillee had spent her time practicing instead of harassing us, maybe instead of sharing my drawings, she could have done it with hers. What's coming next? Are you going to reveal that I played the xylophone? That I play video games? If some of you don't know, I've been struck for copyright infringement for the use of a trailer from the Bullshitish documentary. At the time of my video, it had been 2 years since they were teasing the release of an incredible, award-winning documentary that would prove the mass harassment and cult created around Lillee Jean. They had been talking about it for so long that I personally thought it didn't exist. But the documentary was released at the end of July.
Truman, the mother of Lillee Jean.
I promise you on everything that I didn't edit the sound. Lillee Jean states that she does all the sound in her films.
I can't rewatch my own documentary. It's way too hard for me to watch. So I edited it. I'm good at script writing, directing, producing. None. It was like a vacuum. Boop! Black hole, done.
In a 4-year career, you haven't been able to adjust a single soundtrack.
A soccer camp.
The usage of this black website really got me concerned.
By the way, I think they had to limit themselves to 4 denominations during the lady interviews. Otherwise, it would have literally taken up the whole screen. Throughout the documentary, they try to present what appears to be online harassment. I should point out, even in my own situation, that I consider them to have experienced harassment to some degree, but probably not as much as they say.
So they have enjoyment. And at 15 and a half, I realized that. And it was a very painful thing because I just was doing my makeup.
Oh, poor things. They got popcorn emojis. They claim to have been arrested because people tag brands to ask them why they associate with racist, transphobic, and homophobic people like them.
Brands leave us, and as they left us, these people would put the notes up that they received from the brands as if it was trophies.
I mean, it's not like these homophobic and transphobic messages exist, right?
African American people cannot say that they've known their ancestors from the slave times.
We're not trying to offend people here, but we are trying to say, stop saying your suffering is worse. If I'm not complaining, shut the fuck up. You want to get serious here? They're trying to erase my culture. They're trying to say that the Holocaust never happened. They're not trying to say slavery never happened. So if you want to get real, we do have a problem here.
It's not harassment to point out every single one of your lies.
Oh my god, I am under siege. Lillee Jean is the castle and people are trying to literally throw bombs at her walls. And that feeling of feeling so isolated as they're like coming and coming and coming. I mean, the way you hear my voice now is how panicked I felt. I felt like I couldn't breathe. I mean, my god!
I will guess that the sound guy went off to get fucked at the same time as the guy responsible for the lighting, and I really like the fact that she still showed a screen where we see Laure threatening another influencer and her family. I mean, the allegation of racism and so on, obviously that wasn't enough.
Every moment of our lives is encompassed by these people tagging us, tweeting about us, harassing us. More and more people across the world are creating videos about ridiculous threats and stories that don't exist.
You keep shaming, oh, she doesn't have a real job. And while you're doing that, you're isolating by making sure I could never have one if I so wanted something outside of my personal career of entertainment. That feeling was so debilitating and made me feel so angry and so powerless. Really, it did.
Can you guys feel the anger and helplessness in that voice? I mean, they're clearly not in the same rows as us. She wants to show emails from brands with whom she's had sponsorship deals, but all we are seeing is insider emails. Using emails to prove sponsorships is fine, but I think there is an easier way to prove that, and it's called contracts and invoices.
She's saying she has fake followers, fake brand deals, so we can believe grooming because fake boyfriend. And then I start seeing on Twitter tagging me, Lillee, it is your boyfriend, with a bunch of fake accounts on that. These rumors start growing and growing and growing.
I didn't mention it before, but a few years ago, Lillee was talking live on Instagram about her alleged boyfriend called Felipe. So far, nothing strange, until we learned that this guy is 9 years older than her and that they got together when she was 14.
I say that we're like 9 years apart and it's like a problem for people. Yet I'm a legal adult and we've like known each other. He is 26.
Logically, people became concerned about the grooming Lillee had experienced and accused her mother of doing nothing to protect her, to which Lillee replied that it's not illegal to date a minor, as long as it's not reported to the police.
No. Illegal is when you report it and it's not consent. If your parents agree to it, it's fine. It's illegal to date a minor, yes, if you report it and it's like not consensual and something's weird. And
back to Bullshitish, where Laura and Lillee addressed the terrible lies told against them.
So you got fake followers, she's lying about her birthday, she's not really a teenager.
Remember, they're called Lillee Jean fraud. Lillee Jean is a criminal. Lillee Jean, smells like cheese.
It must be terrible to say that you lied about your birthday and that you smell like dick cheese. In French, we say fromage de bite, and I really think it's beautiful. We are also treated to an incredibly well-filmed and directed segment in which Law talks about a parcel with a glitter bomb sent to their home. Except that we never actually see the bomb, not even the package. We do see Law calling the police and other people without much context, but we never get a full discussion, so it looks a bit. She's talking to her switched off phone. I'm not saying that it never happened, I just think that it's strange to film yourself going to the police and not to provide any evidence that you actually did receive that package.
I deserve the hugest apology for all the lies spread about me. Who am I? I am Lillee Jean, and this is my story. The truth, not a fantasy. The truth.
It took more than 2 years to release it. By the way, to access this documentary, you have to go to their website. Sometimes you're directly blocked because there are restrictions by state and by country, as Lillee confirms it in this comment. But when you access it, you end up in their database, which is pretty smart on their part, the way you get all the information of people who hate you, just so you can use it against them by making them want to come to your website with your documentary full of lies. Anyway, it would be such a shame if someone you already had the private information of decided to record your documentary, blurring out Primink's doxing details, and uploaded it to a secure channel. I wonder who could have done this? Now I would like to take this moment to address some points I didn't cover in my first video. Since Lillee likes my content and my person, I decided to give her a late birthday present and give her the attention she desperately wants. Happy birthday, Lillee. Let's rewind for a moment and talk about what makes Lillee Jean so popular. According to her CV, Lillee Jean is an actress.
Here I go. For a sad pony or no blood.
Performer.
And we're dancing in the dark with you between my arms.
Artist and athlete. She knows how to speak Parisian French. It's written on her CV, so it must be true.
J'ai besoin d'aide. S'il vous plaît, pour moi. I'm really talented in conversational French.
But she does not speak the Belge French, if that does mean anything. Scientifically speaking, her career is 80% of wine and 20% of lies. This is not me, this is just science. Seriously, when you get to know the character, there are two things this person puts forward. The fact that her films and trailers win awards, and the interviews on her. Let me dismantle both of them. If you go to Lillee's IMDb page, you'll notice noticed that she has received several awards for her work. If we look at the Bullshitish project we saw from earlier, we see that she received an award from a festival called Cinema. Since I have 300 IQ, I went to research this festival, and let's just say that by looking at the website, I'm beginning to understand how it works. As the site states, Cinema is an exciting event that brings together filmmakers, industry professionals, and cinephiles to celebrate and showcase the art of cinema. It provides a platform for emerging and established filmmakers to show their work, receive recognition, and connect with potential audience and investors. And in this sentence, we'll remember above all to receive recognition. By the way, we are kinda lucky, because we actually can submit a film. Okay, I will stop pretending that it's amazing. Basically, it is a pseudo-online film festival based somewhere in Nepal, whose Instagram and Twitter accounts have already been taken down once for violating the rules of use, which offers to vote for bullshit films via the Film Freeway platform and get its money back via the entries fees. But don't worry, if you're interested, there is even a discount code for taking part of these kind of festivals, and all for the sole purpose of getting a nice JPEG with the name of your film on it, to make people think that you're a cinema icon. But thanks to them, we can discover incredible films like La Dolce Vita, with that Donuts Tempo and that Peace Tower. And at first, I thought it was weird that Lillee Jean's production were receiving awards, but when you look at the only real accounts that interact with her, you quickly realize that there are hundreds, if not probably thousands, of people posing as award-winning actors and directors via this kind of festival. By the way, this actor, Carlos, who seemed to be working with Lillee Jean over the last months, finally had a slight burst of intelligence and attempted to publicly address Lillee Jean's actions. Except today, those tweets are now deleted, surely following the threats and police documents he must have received from law. Now, if you're talking about the articles, here's Medium, the main website where you will find the articles about Lillee Jean. In Primink's second video, we quickly understand that Lillee's articles are ordered via Fiverr.
And I spent a few hours combing over Fiverr until I found a listing from a person named Penguins for Hire. So I scrolled through his product photos and he had this article posted, but he cropped out the journalist's name to try to hide what they're doing. So I looked up that article and I discovered it was written by Yitzi Wiener, the same guy who wrote Lillee's article. Then I went to the reviews and someone had posted an article that they had bought but they were unhappy with. But if you clicked on that photo, that article was written by Gigi, the same journalist that also wrote one of Lillee's articles. Huh, that's a little odd.
But that's not the only thing you can easily check. Here's one of the latest interview of Lillee.
Lillee Jean on how we can increase women's engagement in leadership and management.
I will skip the substance of the article, which is just Lillee's way of sporting off those pseudo-feminist speeches about how women needs to take power and how we need to help each other.
We need to prioritize supporting other women in their accomplishments and achievements. If we don't, that voting support will weaken the movement.
And I say she's a fake feminist because there are literally no women other than her and her mother in her productions. I watch her latest short films and there are no women. The only woman I've noticed lately was this Instagram girl who live streamed with her and had more than 3k bots watching but only had 3 people talking in the chat. This interview was written and posted by Vanessa Ogle, an entrepreneur, inventor, lyricist, and also a journalist. And I understand that it must be a real honor to be interviewed by such a figure. At least that's what I would say if she doesn't just post the same article over and over again about how to increase women's involvement in leadership and management. The introduction is always the same, the questions are always the same, so I'm going to make a simple deduction. Does her job consist in getting answers and money and then publish it on this site?
Oh, you're kidding, Cleo. She's a real journalist, and that's why she posts on this site.
Anyone can post on Medium. You just need a subscription. In fact, they know this very well because they already published articles on Lillee.
Oh, I want to say thank you guys too. I gave a interview, Authority magazine, on women in film, and thank you guys for reading and checking it out.
You know, Lillee, if you want a real article about yourself without having to pay, I kinda know someone who would be happy to interview you. The last part I would like to address is about the recent actions of Lillee and her mother. A few days ago, Lillee shared via her blog and Instagram story that people in the Primink community had a channel where they shared nudes of Lillee.
What has happened? The AI generative deepfake porn on me is... I mean, I told you, it's insane. They're still utilizing it in Discord servers of certain YouTubers, and it is still being passed around on the dark web, so it is very scary.
While her Discord screenshot is real, it's so really lacking in context. What Lillee doesn't show is that it's a joke made by members of the Primink server. They were well aware that she was on this server, as can be seen on the screen. In fact, it's an inside joke of the server to host Lillee, since she also stalked the Primink server. You know, the one she complains about harassment. This new channel has never existed. However, something was quite off. It was the deepfake image posted by Lillee. The account that would also comment on tweets disliking Lillee Jean and Lore was also the very same account that posted the deepfake image, as well as commented on several tweets made by Lillee Jean. But hey, since we hate Lillee and Lore for their illegal and disgusting actions, we obviously share. Oh, no, we massively reported this account, so it would be taken down. What an horrible cult we are for not tolerating sexual harassment. In less than a day, this account was deleted. But here is a thought I would like to share with you. I'm putting a big disclaimer up front because it is based on my personal experience with Lore, allegedly. Don't you think it's strange that this account has survived more than 10 days, spamming the same retouched picture? For the record, when I posted my video on Lillee, it took them less time to strike my thumbnails and video intro. So how is it that such a disgusting photo could have survived so long without Lillee and Lore pouncing on it and taking advantage of it to position themselves as victims? Why wait for people to make a joke about a new channel before this comes out? It could be anyone. I'm not accusing Lore of making a deepfake of her daughter to put on the internet and blame her detractors, but I find it really suspicious, and at this point I really hope I'm wrong.
They're even spreading rumors that my family made them. These are psychos, degenerates, lunatics that are making money and literally sexually exploiting me and literally trying to hurt me.
Moreover, she takes advantage of this article to link the creation of the deepfake with Primink to dox his name again on her website. She also states that since March 2024, searches for the terms Lillee Jean kidnapping and Lillee Jean nudes have increased on Bing and Google. I don't know where you got this information, but you know, I may not know how to research properly. But I promise you, Lillee, that we don't give a shit about seeing you naked.
Below you will see said corporation for months trying to breach my website as he planned with the rest of the cult to hurt me. Hiding behind claims of being doxxed and stalked for views, these creators are the very people violating, hurting and exploiting Lillee Jean. They're not creators, they're business owners, with public companies that underground are doing dangerous schemes.
Honestly, my only dangerous activity is watching that vegan teacher's TikTok. In the case you haven't figured it out, Lillee, the only reason I bypass the IP block you've been showing in my face for months is to make sure you don't dox other people's names. And surprise, you still do. So I sincerely apologize for taking screenshots and sending them to the people concerned.
The excessive YouTube videos and campaigns against Jean and her family, Lillee Jean clone cult members, have only gotten worse. They are deceiving viewers who are mainly children.
That too, I would like to see this backed up with some evidence, because the last time I checked, the people who watch commentaries channels are aged between 18 and 34. To back that up, as a gift, here's the age proportion of Curtis and my own channel.
The fact is, I'm being daily ripped to shreds and have serious criminal, sexually motivated actions happening daily because of these very men.
Curtis hadn't made any video about you for 2 months. Primink made an update because you doxed his name everywhere. None of them have any sexual desire for you. Believe me, I've been turned down enough from guys to know when one isn't interested in a girl, and they're clearly not interested in you.
Below, you will see Price, a member of the cult, that I have filed multiple reports on, including in Wales.
Strange. The only police report you have is in the UK in general, not in Wales. Otherwise, you would have made a point of showing it.
He has been stalking and harassing me for 4 years now, though I suspect more. His video with titles such as The Secret Website.
Oh no, horrible title. He's definitely a monster.
To The Secret Revenge AI porn servers on me. They have convinced children they are being doxxed and victims of me, despite being public figures with public companies that one day did thousands of videos on me. I now suspect it's in order to gain traction on the underground world of AI sex trade, gambling and betting on me.
Je vais péter un câble, c'est quoi ça?
I'm fearful for my life because of men like Price and Primink. This is criminal.
Do you know what's criminal? Trying at all costs to make these guys look like sex freaks when they don't give a shit about you and would like to move on. That they would probably like to do their videos on other subject piece without having to be dragged off by a potential freak like you.
I don't think it's very funny when these very men are big guys. I'm a small woman, I'm short, I'm petite, and these men are gruff, large, and very threatening and sexually motivated.
It is so easy to use the "I'm a 5-foot girl facing big boys and I'm afraid they'll attack me" card, because no matter what they say, you're just going to say that they are harassing you, that these men want to stop you from evolving because they are men. And that's probably why you don't quote me, because the fact that I'm a woman doesn't fit with the victim scenario you've created for yourself. That's probably why you prefer to use pressure tactics on my family and me.
My family's safety is so important to me that I felt compelled to come on here and share this with you guys. I feel there are so many women who are victimized like me by these sexually exploiting animals.
As a woman, what you're doing disgusts me to no end. A lot of us have been hurt by men at some point in our lives, to varying degrees, but that doesn't give you the right to talk shit about Primink and Curtis by holding up this excuse.
From the kidnapping searches to physically the IPs visiting that are blocked, premeditated criminal actions before they occur to me. They are all sexually motivated, and it's insane. Now in 2024, the detectives, it's complete, the entire cult, and it's over 100 members. There's lots of crazy stories going out. I know that there are crazy videos and stuff, but I wanted you guys to know that behind this is this. And I wanted you to know that if you go to projectbullshitish.com, you will see that I have all the evidence to prove the premeditation of these criminal attacks on my life.
Thanks to you two, my path has crossed with Curtis, and at this point, I think I can say he's the opposite of everything you say.
One of the YouTubers especially is extremely big, so it is extremely threatening to my life because I'm a little woman.
It doesn't give a rat's ass about you, so much so that I know more about the case than he does. And do you know why? Because he's living his life, and he doesn't need you to help him move on. But I don't know, you haven't been able to make do without him for years. Is there something you would like to confess to us? Or even Lore? Because I also find it problematic that a woman your age is so obsessed with a 24-year-old boy like Curtis. And since you consider him to be harassing Lillee while she was still a minor, even though she's actually older than him, does that mean that you've been interested in his pretty face since he was a minor too? Oh, that's so problematic.
I like my life. Stop taking my life.
You may have guessed it, but with everything that's been going on, I've tried several times to alert YouTube about this situation. It all started with emails, whether in French or English, to YouTube directly or to the various police and FBI addresses in Lillee Jean's documents. Fun fact, the email address of the detective in charge of this case is not correct, and as expected, no one replied to me. I tried to go through YouTube support, only to receive an automatic email saying that they didn't see the problem.
We have now identified any breach of YouTube privacy guidelines in the content you have reported. For more information on these guidelines, please see the following page. We invite you to contact the creator of the content in question directly to try to resolve any issues.
So many words in the French language, and so few to tell me to go fuck myself.
Same on Twitter, my first thread was ignored, so I tried again right after they doxed my name.
By the way, YouTube, if you want to do something, because no matter how many times I've contacted your support and used your administrative channels, you tell me you don't see the problem. Maybe I'm lying? Who knows?
Hello, we're here to help you. Could you provide us with more information about your problem?
One of your creators, who has struck a lot of videos abusively in the last 4 years, is harassing several YouTubers including me. She uses our personal information taken from the strikes to dox us in the emails addressed to YouTube and our personal addresses. A few days ago, she posted my full name as a comment on one of the posts in her community tab. I still have the screenshots. She also puts links links to websites that contain my name, even though I've never linked my personal information to my channel. I have a huge file on what's going on. If you go to her community tab right now, there is even a post where she doxes another YouTuber's location. I've really used every way to pull this all together. It would be really cool to talk to a real human who isn't just going to close a ticket. As a result of your inaction, my family is getting doxed.
Clear? If you think someone is violating YouTube's identity theft policies, follow the steps on this page. We'll do our best to resolve the issues as quickly as possible.
I'm not talking about identity theft. I'm talking about doxing people's personal information.
We rely on our community to help us report inappropriate content so that YouTube remains a safe place for everyone. If you come across content that violates YouTube's rules, you can report it by clicking on the share link.
Even my exes made more of an effort to understand me.
Nothing I've done have been taken into account. Yet, if what Primink says about their channel being monitored by YouTube, why do we end up with YouTuber getting doxed directly on her community tab? And you want to know the funniest things that happened after this? Well, nothing happened. My thread was ignored. But that day, Lillee and her mother doxed me again. Just like every time I try to talk. I know some of you must be wondering why there is no legal action, why I'm not talking about it in this video. First of all, because this video is going to be watched by the main people involved, so I can't say exactly everything I want, at least for the moment. I have some personal information about these two people that I was going to talk about in this video, which I ended up removing from my script because, as upset as I am about this situation, I'm not going to play their game. In the next few weeks, they will probably face the consequences of their actions, because the only reason their online war has been more and more insane during the recent weeks is to try to get us to react on a legal level and use it in another case they're already being sued for. I know for a fact that they have asked for a postponement of their trial due to having to apply for temporary restraining order in other states because of this alleged cyber stalking. Please understand that I've decided not to go private, to let karma do its work. And as unfair as my current situation may be, I have more faith in karma than in the moderation of YouTube and other social networks. You don't know how much I'm looking forward to finishing this video, because not only will it mean that everything is out and I won't have to dive into it anymore, but it will also take away that feeling of control they have over me. Over the past few days, Lillee and her mother have continued to share information about me on their accounts. As soon as I posted my video on Claymore announcing my doxing and my desire to make one last video, they went right back to sharing replies to tweets from one of my deleted accounts. It got so ridiculous that they even wished me a happy birthday in a rather disturbing way. Shortly after they doxed my name, doxed my mother, and continued to act really creepy towards me. I don't really see how I can consider them victims. During my 2 videos, and up until recently, I considered Lillee to be a victim of her mother's behavior, that she was a victim almost in the same way as we were, that all her posts came from lore and not from her. But as the time went on, it became increasingly clear to me that she was no better.
April 18th is my birthday. That's when more of the threats start. April 18, 2024, the following week, a video comes out on me, and I did file a report on the person because they do belong to the Lillee Jean clone cult. That was mocked online and made fun of, and she does that so people don't feel scared to join her cult. The report is very much real, and the threats I was sent by that person is very much real.
We are not members of any cult. We are just YouTubers who wanted to talk about you because you're a fraud, a liar, a fake victim, and you're putting all loved ones in danger to create a victim story for yourself. That you're not. We have stopped talking about you and you doxed us. Being small doesn't give you the right to accuse men who haven't done anything of wanting to hurt you sexually based on the wind.
You think because automatically you have a penis it makes you more scary, right?
What I find the saddest in this story is that you're taking it out on me by sharing my drawings, my book, as if you couldn't bear to see another woman succeed where you have failed. I write, record, edit my videos, I draw some thumbnails, I make contacts in the YouTube community, and when I speak out, people support me. French people support me, English people support me, American people support me. But what about you? You've got none of that, because instead of working on yourself over the past few years, you've spent your time tracking people.
Bitch, bye. You burn too.
Go get fucking COVID.
This is a message for Lillee and Lore. If you're ever watching this, share my name. I don't give a shit. It will not change my life. You will just prove that you're the monster you're accused of being. I'm not afraid of you. I just feel sorry for you. This is my last video about you. I won't be making any more. In any case, thank you for the 400 euros I've earned for my videos about you. And I promise to continue my channel as much as possible so that these 3 videos continue to earn me as much as possible. And as we say in French, allez, bisous. Hein.
I actually have IC3 reports on somebody internationally that owns a company and is a book author. So she is a public figure, and in May she entered my life and never left. She is a huge part of the Lillee Jean clone cult and why this whole thing ballooned. She's delusional. I've had no contact with her. The last contact I had, in fact, was having the police officers on the NYPD cases CC'd because she has a strong connection to this. She is threatening, creating fictitious battles for money, and I don't know what else she's doing, but I'm seeking action on her as well. So internationally, there is stuff going on as well, and I am seeking for every single one of them either a restraining order or some type of criminal justice to occur. You can't keep doing this to somebody. You just can't.